All right, let's see if that's now working. Yay! Apologies for that. Let me start over and do this once more. Hi. Right. Hopefully you can hear me now. I don't have my chat open, but let me just check. All right. So if you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up again. I will do a quick double check. Yay, great. Thank you. All right. Well, there's a first time for everything. Technology. Here I was talking about how great we are with technology over here, and I got caught. Thank you. Okay. So today is really talking about leadership blind spots and AI. I'll try to get through this a little bit quickly so that we can get caught up a little bit here. And I don't know what we can do about that stream that was there for the first few minutes, so we'll figure that out later. Let's get going. All right. So the issue with, let's get my clicker working. I guess it died when we lost that connection and I had to restart. Great. Is it working now? Must be a tech challenge day. All right, so far we've touched on these things, and it looks like I'm going to be using the mouse somehow. Okay. The problem that we face is a silent problem. It affects performance. We think people are engaged, people are doing what they need to do, but with the introduction of AI, and we've seen and we've been pioneering this area from the beginning of AI. I've done a lot of work in that area with a lot of people, a lot of leaders. We've tested lots of systems, etc. And now we see the results of the early adopters, there's middle adopters and late adopters, and we're seeing it right through at the moment, because even the late adopters are starting to think, hey, maybe I should start looking at this, and these are flags that I'm going to share with you about what to watch for, because we've experienced it firsthand. We've seen it with companies, with coaching. We've seen it in lots of different areas. So here's a quick example. Teams missing key deadlines. Why is that happening? Is it because AI is transcribing the meetings? The tasks are being assigned through AI. We're relying on AI to summarize and share the tasks. I talked about that in the last session. And what happens is we get misaligned. We lose that cultural engagement, the momentum, the morale starts to suffer. Okay. So what happened? How did that happen? When you're running a lot of remote people, Zoom sessions, etc., when people are not visible, or you can't see their body language, you just see their picture or their head, you're not really sure whether they are engaged or not. It's different when we were in the same room. Even when people's photos are up, very often I turn it off. I don't want to see myself, but very often you see people looking at themselves, adjusting themselves. They're distracted by their own image rather than focusing on the room and paying attention to the people in the room. So these are all signs that we're missing some important things. We don't pause to ask questions, or people don't, say, "Hey, I need to interrupt." We mute people. We do all kinds of things that are starting to affect the engagement. We can't sense burnout if we don't do these things. Leaders stop paying attention to those things, and they think everything is okay when it's not. So AI has magnified these things, so if they were already starting to happen through COVID, through the remote workforce, with AI, we've gone even further because AI is now interacting in many different areas. It's automating a lot of things. We're replacing the observation with assumptions. Okay, and that's my one of my new slogans is what we judge what we don't understand. So when we make assumptions, we leap to conclusions, and those conclusions then lead us to a judgment, which is founded in a lack of understanding. We haven't reached out, we haven't talked to those people, we haven't drawn in an opportunity to understand. AI is assigning tasks through ClickUp, through Trello, through all of these platforms, and we are not as engaged as we used to be. Okay, so blind spot number one, passive listening. Okay, a lot of people are checking out, saying, "Yep, look, I'll read the transcript later." I'm finding a lot of our master classes, people are assigning their AI to attend, and I don't even know if they read the transcripts. So they're not present at the session, and are they even really listening or taking the time to look at, I should say, read. Are they taking the time to read the transcripts, the tasks, the summaries, what we discussed, etc.? The learning and the engagement opportunity is missing. Okay, in a lot of my sessions, I actually kick all those AI tools out because I want people engaged, and I talked about that in our last session. Leaders miss the energy level, the silence. I was meeting with someone a couple of weeks ago, and just the amount of energy that we had through that conversation, it wouldn't have been possible if we were relying on AI or if the video was turned off. All of these things are really critical. What's left is just information, but not a connection. And you can't lead without connection, right? The leadership checklist, blind spot number two. Everything looks like it's okay, but something feels off, right? Can you sense that? Tasks are followed, but trust is eroded. Okay, you can't build trust without connection, without communication, without observation. Excuse me. So leadership is about leading, which is leading people, but also leading a ship. So it's a combination of understanding how to operate your business or a ship, but also how to lead the people to do that more effectively. Okay, so if we were to unpack that a lot more, we'd get into a lot more of the leadership style with the team rather than just the tasks. Okay. When the team, blind spot number three, feedback blackout. Okay. I like that term. It's, when people no longer ask questions, they're not curious, they're not thinking about how this is going to be implemented, they're just following instructions. We've gone back decades, probably 4 decades. We used to call them the old chicken pens, where cubicles were separated and people were isolated and they were just focused on their task, getting their task done, and not really engaged with anybody else because they were surrounded by walls, and we used to call them a chicken pen. So we start making assumptions when people aren't engaged. There's no complaints, there's no problem. In reality, there are lots of problems, and I'll go into that in a moment. AI doesn't have the ability to use instinct, to probe, to ask questions, to go, oh, there's something not right here. It just can't do that, right? It can't sense anger. It can't sense, the eye contact, the tonality. It just records information. Okay. So AI is increasing automation, but it's decreasing engagement, and that's something that we need to look at. Missing the signals, I just talked about that. That erodes trust. If we don't have observable interaction, we don't feel like we are connected, we don't feel that trust. There is a lot that gets eroded by that. And ultimately, performance is going to suffer. The business is going to suffer. The operations is going to suffer. So we need to pay attention to these things. I'm not saying don't do AI. I'm doing a lot of AI. A lot of development is going on in our business, but we are paying attention to this possible erosion. So artificial intelligence is not behavior intelligence. Okay, so you need to figure out the overlap. AI can only see what's done. It can't sense why it was done or why it wasn't done. It doesn't have the ability to talk about intent and action and question the intent behind the actions. Right? Behavior is observed. What you can't see, for instance, the listening between the lines, I call it. We all call it that probably, but it's the crackle in someone's voice or the word that was thrown in there. I'm fine, and they shrug their shoulders. It's almost leave me alone. Well, AI can't pick that up. Okay, so pay attention to these things. The quiet member, we've worked decades to train people to watch and listen for the quiet people in the room. I call them the observers in the room, because if they are quiet and they are present, they are listening, they're taking in information. You need to draw that out. You need their participation. Well, if you don't have the ability to pick up on that, you're missing the critical feedback of the 1 or 2 people in the room that were listening, and they just weren't asked to speak up, so you don't get the insight of their observations, their listening, what they heard, etc. And it's often very profound from that. The hesitation before agreeing. All of these things can't be picked up by AI. So it's important to remember these things. Okay. So we are going to use technology. We are going to use AI, but we need to overlay into that the behavior intelligence, the leadership intelligence components that we talk about. So the task completion, the dashboard, the reports, these are all the KPIs that we need for running any business. But if they're not being done, it's often because of the leadership, the engagement, the intuition, the emotional alignment, and human interaction that needs to take place in order to sense those things and deal with them so that the people are performing the tasks to their maximum ability with the right support, the right trust, the right culture, the right environment. Okay. Talked about this. Trust is built through human interaction. You cannot have trust in isolation, in no communication. I always say to people, even no communication is a form of communication. And you need to ask, why is that happening? Okay. What's going on that is causing that lack of communication? Culture can only be sustained through observed behavior, right? I talk about that a lot. You can't read minds. You can only see how people interact. You can only observe that. And if you take away that observation, can you really sustain trust and culture and achieve your best? Okay. You can't outsource presence. AI just cannot tell you if someone is paying attention, if they are present, and I mean not physically present, but mentally present, participating, focused, paying attention. Okay. Don't abdicate, right? So we're talking about how are we going to integrate all this AI stuff that's happening and not lose the leadership, the performance, the culture, the trust. And that's what this conversation is really all about. I don't want to throw AI out the window. We can't. It's here to stay, right? Just like computers were, a lot of people resisted the introduction of PCs, technology in manufacturing, in a lot of places. But guys, it's here to stay, right? Those things are here to stay. So we need to figure out how to integrate it, how to elevate our success without the opposite happening, which can erode your opportunity to do that. And it comes down to leadership. Leadership is about the leading, right? Not avoiding the conversation. Okay. Use AI to free up mundane tasks to elevate what people are working on. That's what happened in manufacturing, when in the automotive industry, as an example, where you've got all these robotic arms doing all kinds of things. It took people out of that mundane task that could lead to errors and mistakes because of the repetition, and giving them an opportunity to develop into a better paid role, a more important role, and allow the companies to expand and grow and meet demand a lot more effectively. So those are really the factors that you need to consider when you are bringing in AI and technology. Okay, so sorry that we had the technology issue, and I've gone through a lot of these slides very quickly. Let's take a breath and just now look at the how. Okay, so 3 habits that you are behavior intelligence aware as a leader. Call it leadership intelligence. ALO. Allo. Okay, in French, that's hello. It's allo, ALO, ask, listen, observe. Okay. And, asking is really about inviting people to share. It's the building the trust. If you don't ask about feeling, if you don't get out of just the work mode only, you can't draw people into trusting to share what's actually going wrong, because they get into a fear situation, or they go, it's not important if I miss another deadline. So curiosity is the key to asking questions. Be curious when you see something, when you hear something. That observation is so important, but what you do with that is the critical thing. Then the second thing has to be shut up and listen. Okay, don't interrupt. Make sure that they have fully expressed what they need to share. Okay, even ask that question. Repeat back what you heard. That's part of listening, is the repetition, the playback, if you like, of what you heard, what you sensed, what you picked up between the lines, really drawing people in order for you to have that trust, okay, which is critical. And again, observe what's going on, because when someone's assigned a task and they don't meet expectations, what were those observable cues that you missed that could have told you before it happened that they were going to miss those deadlines? The observation was there, okay? It's just you missed it. If you didn't see it before it happened, you weren't paying attention to the observable cues. Okay, so that is a critical component of that. So 3 simple habits. AI can't replace the conversations, the disagreement, the healthy discussions. There are arguments when they are not healthy discussions. They are disputes. When those disputes get turned into conversations about discovery and learning, then they get into the coaching conversations to help mentor people, to support them, and so forth. Noticing when someone's energy drops. I see that sometimes with different types of people. Some people don't like to be told what to do, for instance. They want to be encouraged to come up with those ideas. And when you use the wrong technique, you can see their energy drop, the deer in the headlight look. It's the, I know what I need to do, don't tell me what to do, can occur. But there are others who will reach out and say, I don't know what to do. Can you tell me what and how to do that, right? And so mentoring, coaching is critical in leadership. And AI can't replace that. You just cannot, right? It can help, it can sense. And to be honest, look, there are movements in that direction, but I, again, caution. We're using some of the video AI to look for facial cues, for behavioral cues that might be important to flag to people, okay? But we're still not replacing people, right? AI might one day be able to pick up those cues, but it can't build a relationship. What's the relationship between a person and an AI, a robot, right? Is that actually a relationship? Can you have a trust relationship in that instance? I don't know, maybe it's beyond my lifetime, but right now this is what we are dealing with. Okay. So when these things are put in place, we've seen this happen. Leaders pause, they ask questions, they deal well with the silence, they shut up and ask people to contribute. They engage on those conversations, or they start every session with tell me something personal, what's been happening in your life, building the relationship of the trust. Or at the end of every session, asking people, okay, do you understand what you need to do? How do you feel about that? Okay. Are there any challenges? Do you want time to think on this? Right? There's the important things that need to take place in order to spot the hesitation, the tension, the crackle in someone's voice, the deer in the headlight look, the shrugging shoulders. All of those cues became relevant to elevate the trust. One of the greatest books that was released many decades ago, I don't know how long ago, was by Patrick Lencioni, and it's The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, and the foundation of that is trust. Okay, and it's still relevant today. Okay, so trust is part of the dynamics in a team that allows people to feel comfortable to speak up when something is wrong without the fear of being reprimanded. Okay, that's a high trust environment. Some red flags for you can watch for. Engagement in meetings, people are saying, yep, I'm good. That's a problem that you need to draw out. You need to ask questions. What do you mean you're good? Tell me what you're good about, right? Talk about that. Their meetings have a lot of task updates, but no personal engagement, no personal updates. There's no understanding that what's happening at home is constantly playing on a person's mind when they're at work. So if you don't pay attention to that, you can't give somebody time off to say, go take care of that and come back and give me 100%, instead of being here and only giving 10%, which can ultimately trigger you doing something wrong, which can have a catastrophic effect on other people or the product, etc. So pay attention to these things. The feedback cycle, it's a feedback loop, actually, right? You observe something. If you do nothing with it, then you're really not participating in their loop, right? You observe something, you ask the question, that's a feedback loop. They respond, you help them through that. That is also a mentoring or coaching conversation. Silence, misinterpreted as everybody's okay. Maybe they're not. If you don't ask, then you're not going to find out. You need to have an environment to do that. Emotional issues emerge too late. Okay. And just kind of wrapping up now. So here is what you can do. You probably have your own list. I've covered a lot of things that you can probably take away as a checklist of things that you can look at. And these are, how are you really doing? Have you paid attention to these things? Make yourself a checklist for every meeting. We have team meetings and we have ad hoc project meetings. And each of them have very much the same cultural practices that we have in the meeting. Yes, we focus on the tasks, we do that, but the unspoken stuff is really the important underlying information that you can observe that is going to have a detrimental effect on the success of a project. But if you pay attention to them, you can make sure you get ahead of that and help people with that. Again, yes, embrace AI. There's just so much that you can do with AI, but don't throw out everything that we've learned for the past hundreds, thousands of years, right? Part of our humanity. Okay. Yeah, I see this happening a lot with a lot of new concepts that come out. I've talked about this before. When I was with IBM, it was TQM, it was think was the motto. And then that got replaced with ISO 9000, and we threw away TQM, and then Six Sigma came out, and we threw away all of the stuff that we had before. And what I try to teach people is don't throw away anything. Layer this on top. And the same with AI. Okay. Don't forget, behavior, humanity is key. Yes, we're going to use a lot of AI. It should augment what you're doing. It shouldn't replace it. Okay. So learn to leverage it. Okay. So it's going to create efficiency, like the slide says. It's not going to replace empathy. Okay. I'm not sure if that will ever happen, but for today, we don't have that ability within AI. Performance issues, they're not usually technical issues. They are relationship oriented. They are leadership oriented. You should be spotting those before they happen if you have the regular interaction. Okay, don't waste people's time by having too many meetings and just fluff kind of meetings. Remember, you still need to be effective within the business. So everything in moderation was, what I grew up with. Having a good balance of these things is important. And it may end up being, 80%, 20%, or 80%, 20%. You need to find the right balance of AI in specific roles. It's not for every role, right? Okay. We're not being replaced completely. We are given the opportunity to elevate what we do by replacing the mundane, call it robotic tasks that an AI can do just as well. Okay. Don't mistake silence with compliance, understanding, ask questions. Okay. So here's some more tips. Schedule in every meeting a 5-minute sensing, whether it's at the end or at the start or both. Do that. Ask a behavior question. So pause and say, hey, you've been quiet. What's going on? Talk to me. Everything okay? Right? You can ask those questions. So notice who's not speaking and check in with them. Those are the key areas. I'm going to talk some more in the coming weeks again about more of how to implement this effectively without losing our behavior intelligence. Remember, stay connected. Okay, you can access a lot of this on our events page. If you want to watch it again, please do so. Okay, and if you need to contact me or reach me, or you want to join our network, the biq.network, a lot of this information is being put into free courses that you can access, so you can get the transcriptions, you can get the slides, you'll get access to a lot of things through the network. Phew, Sorry about the first few minutes again, but thank you. We will try and edit that out so that we get back to the core functionality. So without any further ado, let me just check if there's any other comments. Thanks for joining, guys. It looks like we're all good to go. And see you all next